some of the basic features that I look for. I'm going to actually cover some of the features that I'm looking for in these units. First off, the biggest thing to be careful on, or be careful with, is I often hear people letting me know, oh, I have this head unit that I just purchased. It's a Pioneer, it's an Alpine. It doesn't matter what brand, they all say this. And they say that it does 50 watts per channel. And what they don't understand is that 50 watts is generally the peak that the system can output. What you really need to focus on is what's called the RMS. Most of these units, the max that they can put out is 20 watts, probably at best. And that's 20 watts per channel, which realistically is not a whole lot of power. It's enough to get some speakers moving, but not enough to get really good sound quality. Now, a lot of folks will start off with a basic head unit and some speakers, and they're really, you know, they're pretty happy. But most people end up upgrading or moving forward a little bit at a time. By the time you're done with this video series, I want you to be able to build your own system, whether your budget is going to let you do it all right now, or if you do it in pieces. If you take the time to do a little bit of homework, you can build yourself a nice system over time or all at once, depending on your budget. Okay, now I'm going to cover some features that are really important to look for when you're buying a head unit. Okay, this is an Alpine CDA 105. This is one of my favorite head units. It's a little more expensive than quite a few other head units, and believe it or not, a lot of the options are, there's a lot of optional options on this head unit that make it a little more expensive. But it's very expandable. This unit has an iPod interface. You can hook up Sirius satellite. You can hook up HD radio. It does iTunes tagging. What else does this thing do? It's got, oh, I always make sure, this one has a high pass filter for around $150 to $200. This is an amazing little head unit that you can expand. Now, let me cover the features I like. I made some notes here so I don't forget. The first thing I like to do is always make sure that my head units have front, rear, and subwoofer output, the preamp outputs, and we'll cover these more in detail. I always like to make sure it's got an internal high-pass filter. If I know I'm going to have a subwoofer, subwoofer or a ported subwoofer, I like to have a low-pass filter. If not, most good amplifiers will have that, and we'll get into that later. I like this knob because it easily turns the subwoofer up and down. You can control the volume very quickly. Like I mentioned earlier, it's very modular. You can add to it easily. You can add a lot of features. And another thing to look for is this particular unit only outputs 2 volts at the preamp, 2 volts preamp output, and I'll explain that in more detail later. This particular unit is a Pioneer double-din. It's a very nice unit. It's relatively expensive. This is about a $1,500 unit. Again, this is maybe 20 watts per channel. It may be a little bit higher, but for the most part, you're not going to get much more, because as I'm doing these videos, this is what, 2010. So as Class D amps continue to get better, they're going to get to a point where they're going to have head units that produce a lot more power. But for right now, probably for the next few years, we're probably limited to about 20, maybe 25 watts max. I can't see it getting any further than that for a while. So that's when we get into amplifiers, and we're going to cover that and show you guys all the specifics. Now, the next section is covering, I'm actually going to plug these units in, power them up. We're actually going to hook up speakers. So I'm going to kind of take you through the basics, then we're going to go to amps. I know I've said this before, but I really want you guys to watch these videos in order. Now, again, I know I'm covering the basics, but a lot of people don't understand single din, double din. What I'll do is at the end of this video, I'll type up a list, and I'll make a list of the features you should look for in your head units. Hope this is helping you guys out. Hang in there with me, and we'll keep on moving forward. Thanks a lot. Single din. This is a double din unit. It's basically 2 receivers, your double DVD players and nav units. Your single dins are generally for just basic stereo listening. Some of them are very high-end audio, and there's even some units where where a screen will pop out, and it will have a screen nearly this size, and it pops out of the head unit, out of a single din. So I don't want you to think that only double dins have the ability to do DVD or nav. But generally speaking, most people will get a doubled in for their nav and a singled in for just a nice audio system.